On the morning of November 4th, 1932, Australian soldiers lie beside a dam in the wheat country of Western Australia and wait for roughly 1,000 emus to approach. The birds move closer. A Lewis gun opens fire. Then it jams. About a dozen emus fall, before the rest scatter across the scrub, leaving the soldiers with dust, silence, and the beginnings of a national joke. This became the defining image of what newspapers called the Emu War. It was not a declared war, and Australia had not mobilized an army. The entire military force consisted of Major G.P.W. Meredith, Sergeant S. McMurray, Gunner J. O'Halloran, 2 Lewis light machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Their assignment was a wildlife cull. Yet the operation genuinely failed to solve the problem it had been sent to fix. Not because the emus developed military tactics, but because the government had misunderstood what kind of problem it was facing. After the First World War, Australian governments placed thousands of returned servicemen on farms. In Western Australia, more than 5,000 veterans, including many former British soldiers, entered settlement schemes built around an appealing promise. Men who had fought for the country would build secure lives by cultivating it. The reality was harsher. Many settlers received marginal land with limited capital, unreliable rainfall, and little protection from falling wheat prices. By 1929, only a little more than 3,500 of Western Australia's soldier settlers remained on their farms. Then came the Great Depression. Every harvest became more important. The settlement schemes also expanded commercial agriculture across Aboriginal country, clearing and dividing landscapes that had been occupied and managed long before the farms appeared. Those changes transformed what the country offered to wildlife. Cleared fields provided grain. Stock infrastructure provided water. Wire fences divided the landscape, but they did not stop large birds from crossing it. During the dry conditions of 1932, emus moved from the inland toward the settled wheat districts around Campion and Walgoolan. Contemporary reports estimated their number at 20,000. That was not a precise census, and the birds were not an invading army. They were native animals responding to food, water, and seasonal conditions in a landscape agriculture had altered. For the farmers, however, the damage was immediate. Emus consumed and trampled wheat. When they broke through fences, rabbits could follow through the gaps. Men already struggling with debt, drought, and falling prices watched another threat enter fields that were almost ready for harvest. A group of soldier settlers asked the Minister for Defense, Sir George Pearce, for machine guns. The request joined 2 worlds that government policy had already connected. Veterans had been converted into farmers. Now a weapon associated with their former lives was being presented as a tool for protecting their new ones. Pearce agreed under several conditions. Military personnel would operate the guns, while state authorities and local settlers would cover other expenses. The detachment came from the Royal Australian Artillery. These were trained servicemen, but they were not an elite force sent into a national emergency. They were 3 men assigned to kill enough birds to reduce crop losses. Rain delayed the operation in October. When it finally began on November 2nd, the central problem appeared almost immediately. The soldiers encountered about 50 emus near Campion. Settlers tried to drive the birds toward the guns, but the flock divided into smaller groups. A Lewis gun could concentrate fire. The emus refused to remain concentrated targets. 2 days later came the ambush at the dam. This time, the soldiers had a large group moving toward a fixed point. They waited until the birds were closer before opening fire. The gun jammed after roughly 12 had been killed. The surviving emus scattered. The mechanical failure was dramatic, but even a perfectly functioning weapon could not remove the underlying difficulty. Lewis guns were designed to deliver sustained fire against targets that could be kept within a field of fire. Once alarmed, emus ran in different directions across wide, rough country. They were not executing military maneuvers. They were behaving like frightened animals. Observers, nevertheless, began describing them in the language of war. Reports claimed that groups appeared to have leaders watching for danger. Meredith later said that the birds could face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. Such language captured the soldiers' frustration. It also transformed ordinary animal behavior into a story of tactical genius. The detachment then tried mobility. One of the guns was mounted on a truck so the men could pursue the birds. The truck bounced across the rough ground. The emus did not need a road. The vehicle could not provide both the speed required to keep pace and the stability required for accurate fire. The gunner was thrown around while the birds crossed terrain their bodies were already built to handle. By November 8th, approximately 2,500 rounds had been fired. Contemporary estimates of the number of emus killed during this first phase varied sharply, from around 50 to several hundred. That uncertainty mattered because the operation was already becoming a political argument. If only a few birds had died, the campaign looked absurd. If hundreds had been killed, ministers could claim that the farms were being protected. The press supplied the name that would outlive every official explanation: the Emu War. In Parliament, Harold Thorby asked who was responsible for this farce and who was paying for it. Pierce withdrew the military party. But the farmers continued reporting serious damage. Western Australia's Premier supported renewed assistance, and officials received more favorable estimates of the first operation's results. Pierce authorized the detachment to return on November 13th. The second phase was less cinematic and more productive. Instead of trying to attack large groups in a few dramatic encounters, the men continued the cull more steadily until December 10th. Meredith's final report claimed 986 confirmed kills from 9,860 rounds. He also estimated that additional wounded birds later died, but that number could not be verified. Calling the result a total battlefield defeat therefore misses part of the history. The guns killed hundreds of emus. Calling it a victory misses the larger point. Fewer than 1,000 confirmed deaths from an estimated population of 20,000 did not stop the movement of the birds or provide a durable answer to the destruction of crops. The military had measured bodies. The farmers needed protected harvests. No Australian government formally surrendered, and no official declared the emus victorious. The idea of defeat grew from newspaper ridicule, parliamentary criticism, and the irresistible contrast between modern firepower and birds that simply kept moving. Later requests for military assistance in 1934, 1943, and 1948 were refused. Governments and farmers continued using rewards for dead emus, a system that had begun before the famous operation. Over time, barrier fencing became a more important method for limiting large movements into agricultural districts. Those fences created ecological problems of their own. But they addressed movement across the landscape instead of expecting bullets to erase it. The Great Emu War survives because it is funny. 3 soldiers, 2 machine guns, and thousands of birds create a story that seems written for parody. Its deeper history is less flattering and more useful. The campaign emerged from economic desperation, soldier settlement policy, an altered environment, and a government eager to demonstrate action with the most visibly powerful tool available. The emus did not defeat Australia by becoming better soldiers. The operation failed because the problem was never truly military. When a government reaches for its most powerful tool, How often does that tool prevent it from seeing what kind of problem it is actually facing?